Hi there, welcome to the Noah Presgrove case. Today, a raw discussion format where I mention key bullet points of where there's been problems in the case, more so the community, which may have dragged out or caused problems, and long term, the impact it may have had on other people as well. And it's not going to be done in any particular order. I might drift in and out of certain themes or features, and the length of this video will go as long as it needed to be, whether it be short or whether it be long. But welcome to those currently watching this live premiere. Share your thoughts, opinions, reactions in the live chat located on the right hand side of the screen. And for those watching later on catch up, you can drop a comment down below. Anyone can really, if you've got additional thoughts, questions, responses, and then I can try and respond back to them at a later point. If you want to catch up on recent coverage by me, my channel of this case, top right corner of the screen up there where the eye symbol is, click on that. You get the drop down box with the full playlist and some loose videos in recent time. And if you do want to support my channel, the best way to do it down below in the comment section, pinned message, will be a link by me, a PayPal one. Big shout out to Brooke Bounds Carter last night for their support on the channel. It was very positive to see. Once again, another surprise in a good way. And with that being said, we probably should just get straight into this video and see where it ends up. I think what I might actually do is add on some additional talking points, which I did bring up yesterday, but the title, the theme of the video wasn't orientated around it primarily. But I can bring it back into today's discussion and even mention it first of all, so it doesn't get forgotten about, and highlight the importance behind it, the for and against arguments, the debate regarding Noah Presgrove walking away from the house, right? Because it's just something that's very important, and it kind of ties in with the issues within the case and community. So bullet pointed near to me, I've got a few key words, and I'm going to tell you them right now, and then we'll just go with the flow when talking. One issue within this case, one big issue within this case is exaggeration. Exaggerating certain points, features within the case, and maybe the party goers, and maybe the environment, and maybe the traffic, and maybe the traffic of people at the party, and the total numbers, the realistic nature of it, and some of the footage and the alleged footage out there. Exaggeration in regards to that type of stuff, blown out of proportion. Things, events, relayed, talked about, Chinese whispers online, blown out of proportion with time. People misunderstanding it. Blown out of proportion can tie on with someone's mindset, limited in perception, ability, reasoning, and or external factors out of one's control, which could apply to not getting the full story, snippets, screenshots cropped out, only a particular part of the conversation, not the full lot, because the person that has cropped it and then posted it or shared it, they wanted it from that focused, concentrated perspective, without the full meaning behind it, because they knew that if the full meaning was shown, then it wouldn't time with their own little agenda, possibly. So that's just one issue. You see the knock-on effect it has. And the more people involved in a case, or just in the community at least, the more people that can be influenced negatively. The other factor and problem is wrong dates, misunderstanding with the dates and times of when certain stuff took place, a Snapchat post here or a TikTok post there, a compilation video here, a screenshot of a Facebook message, a screenshot of a Facebook post comment section, which could say 2 weeks ago, 1 week ago, 2 minutes ago, but the actual screenshot originally was taken years ago, etc. That's another problem, and we'll get a bit more into that later. Another keyword, obsession with murder. Some people could genuinely be obsessed with that outcome, hence why they may want to push it more than others, right? I've treated it on and off like a possible murder case, but not the way others have. And how others may have operated is in an unnatural way, which then can lead to added stuff which wasn't there in the first place, which really doesn't help. Kind of takes it away, makes a bit of a mockery of the possibility at the end of the day. The next issue, not answering questions. First question addressed, people work around, avoid it, don't answer it, ask another question, and then, it's just endless loops, not quite working out. Some people stuck like a broken record. That's another problem in this case. Another one is, it's not an issue, but it's part of the debate to begin this video, and that's to do with Noah walking away. So that's why I bring it in right now. I'd rather mention it now because it is very important. Mentioned it last night, but there might be some additional points or counterpoints. When it comes to Noah Presgrove, some say he walked away from the house. Other people believe he walked away from the house and towards the highway. And then other people think that Noah didn't leave the property whatsoever. But the issue there is when people are really fixated on that possibility. Noah never left the property. Yeah, but you're not answering the question. You're not giving your direct answer in regards to the theme of Noah walking away, whether that be walking away from someone, walking out of a room to enter another room, or walking out the house physically, even if it means staying on property site. Did Noah leave the house? And some people are like, Noah would never walk away from the property. Yes, but did he leave the house? What's your thoughts on that? This is the broken record, what we get with time. Answer the fucking question, okay? And that could be said in a little bit of a naughty way by me, so don't worry, I will slap myself right now. Yeah? Oh, we're getting on with this a bit early, aren't we? Forget about Warlight Ref After Dark. We're getting it right in. Probably too soon, because I'm sure Beauty Gurumo is going to join late and say, hey, hope I didn't miss anything. Well, homegirl, you missed out greatly, didn't you? But in all honesty, when it comes to people not answering the question, is it done out of stubbornness, awkwardness? Is that the way people are in this community? Or could it be because they're so focused on their own thoughts or follow-up question to a different thing, which doesn't help with the first question? See, it happens from different perspectives. People would have had questions or responses in regards to Justin Roy, and when prompted, Justin would respond back with something completely different, or jumping ahead and not actually answering the first question, which just causes a breakdown in communication from then, and it's all downhill from there. But Justin Roy has had his own issues with other people down the line, at least from the perspective when it came to the dove hunt. Were you at the dove hunt? Yes or no? Do you know who was there? Anyone, any party goers? Justin was asking those type of questions, and whilst he might have been a bit direct, and some may argue forceful, Justin had a set of questions, somewhat simple, yes or no responses. And what did the other people do? They did not answer, or they were a bit awkward in their responses. So it was a breakdown in communication, and it just failed from that moment. See, the time when Warlight Ref was interrogated, like the Me Too movement, which was a bit silly, and it was in regards to the odd person in the background, and it's like, answer me now, Warlight Ref, answer me this, answer me that. And I'm like, hold up, wait a moment, and just answer my question first of all before we engage with this dialogue. What is going on? What are you aware of? And what's happened in the background that I am oblivious to? Just answer those questions, lay the foundation, set the tone, create the story, a backstory, and then it might help with being able to answer your set of questions. There is an order to it. Now, to be honest, there will be other times where you may need to answer a person's question because they asked it first before your question, but sometimes there needs to be a leniency in which their question could be answered by one of your questions as a backstory before it even starts the true conversation. If it's arranged in the correct order, then the conversation and the quality, the flow of it could be much better with time. And there'll be situations just in general where I might ask a range of different questions, and then I might know the next step, the next course of action, what needs to be done next. Or, oh, well, you've answered my questions. It ticks the box here. It raises question there. I think the solution to it is this. It's almost like questions, answers, answers, questions, leading to a diagnosis. So the Dr. Raff approach does work. So just feel free to take notes if anyone wants to do so with time. You want to take the doctor's approach, you can. I'll give you permission because I'm a good person. But yeah, so in terms of like the dove hunt with Justin Roy, just wanting to try and learn about that, get a backstory behind it, whilst the dove hunt has been pushed and whilst it has been linked to, such as with the party, as in party guests going here, going there, coming or going. If the dove hunt was on Friday to Saturday, Avery reposted or reshared it on either Instagram or elsewhere online, not because she was attending it, but just putting it out there to spread awareness so other people can, you know, go with the usage of firearms and then firearms present at the party house. Yeah, granted, dove hunt may have their own set of firearms, which you go use and then, you know, they remain on site and that you don't bring your own. But in the early days of when trying to learn and work things out, you may need to ask a set of questions, and if certain other people aren't willing to answer them, you're not really going to get anywhere. And that may have happened elsewhere in the community. As for anyone watching, a witness right now, has there ever been a time you've been in the case community where you've had a set of questions, you wanted answers to them, you found the right person, the right time, but they weren't willing to respond? Or it came across as very intentional that they were purposely swerving answering those questions. Now, if any human swerves answering a question, does it instantly make them suspicious or guilty? Not always, because it depends what the question is. Some people may swerve them because they just don't want to answer, they're not in the mood, or it's a bit awkward. I mean, to put it into perspective, there would have been the odd moment in the past where I've done a live stream and then there's been a range of questions, boom, 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 left, right, and center, and then I suddenly disappear off camera because it's like, whoa, where are we going with this? So, you know, there'll be levels of innocence at times, but if there's a dysfunction in the human that isn't getting what they want and then they interpret it as something else, which isn't the case, then that's another form of breakdown in communication. I know you can say humans aren't perfect, and because I make all these observations, then it leads to the stray, wretched, feral individual that jumps on in and says, oh, because Raf, you are perfect. Bitch, please, did I say I was perfect? Did I say that? No, didn't think so. All under control. You're just creating your own little words, applying them to me, creating your own little labels, applying them to me. Because as I said, I've been falsely accused of being a trafficker. I've been falsely accused of being the impersonation of a dead person in a case. I've been accused of being a crisis actor. What else have I been accused of? I've been accused of being a sexist. I've been accused of being a pervert. I'm doing really well, aren't I? Yeah! Let's fill the list. How many more have I got on the checklist to get a full house? Well, I'm going to be accused of being a private investigator. I'm going to be accused of my last name being Bingham. I don't care. I'm going to be accused of being under the ice caps, swimming about like a fish. The reason why Joyce Burgow isn't able to get any fish is because I've been eating them all. So sorry about that. At least ice sheets haven't cracked yet, so that's all fine. But let's just bring it back. So I've just given a bit of a rough example there in regards to certain themes. How would it apply to the debate of whether Noah walked away or not? Well, as I said, some who give their responses to, well, Noah wouldn't leave the property. Some of those people don't say whether Noah had left the house or not. Just answer that part first. Answer half of the topic, half of the debate, half of the event of Noah leaving. So how I would break it down, because I can try and add on counterpoints to counter these problems. You can take notes so then you can apply in the future if you come across idiots, okay, or problematic people, or if there's a disconnect or a language barrier with another person and yourself, okay. So I'd say, first of all, do you think that Noah Presgrove exited the house to cool off? Yes or no? And depending what they responded back with, then you could do a follow-up question. So if they respond back with, yes, I believe Noah left the house to cool off. Second part of the question would be, well, based off that, do you think that Noah Presgrove went to the highway, hence how he ended up dead over there? Because it was reported in the background by Jack, speaking on behalf of Logan, who was seeing Noah going east, and east is towards the highway. Do you think that Noah Presgrove, besides exiting the house to cool off, went to the highway? Yes or no? And then you would, await a person's response. And if they say, no, I don't think he went to the highway. I think in between, whilst he was out there on site of the property, something went wrong. Something bad happened. Fair enough. They've answered the question. They've given their opinion. Case closed, in a way. It's not a big deal. It's not a big problem. It's fine as it is. That. If they said, no, yeah, I also believe that he left the property and went along the highway and then something bad happened there. You could ask the question and say, okay, so do you think that Noah, there was foul play involved with Noah? Yes or no? And then you can attach a completely different question into the mix because it follows a certain story and possible outcome. You can see how simplified it can be, right? But it's not always that simple, this case, because there'll be many different factors that need to be acknowledged in regards to Noah Presgrove himself. What is Noah Presgrove capable of physically, psychologically speaking? His mindset, his reflexes, his energy levels, how does it compare before and after? From the footage and photos, what we've seen of Noah, somewhat stable, all right. At least 1:05 in the morning and even 1:50 in the morning, that bathroom selfie. As a matter of fact, that bathroom selfie, Noah Presgrove is more there with it than Jack Newton is. You look at Jack Newton's face, it either looks like he's really in love and he's daydreaming, or he's really drunk. It could just be his facial expression as well, and it may not be a big deal, but if you're just basing it off first impressions of what each person looks like, their body language, facial expressions, their speech, and if there's any video footage, Noah Presgrove doesn't look that drunk, doesn't look that out of it at a certain point, at least up to maybe 1:50 in the morning. So from 1:50 to what's the next timestamp? Well, based off Caden Presses, would be 2:40 if that's the after effect of the side-by-side rollover. From 1:50 to 2:40, how much more drinking took place in that time frame for Noah to be so off his head and completely out of it, needing to be escorted and carried, well, not carried, but assisted to the bathroom and then assisted in being helped to stand up properly? Is there a bit of an exaggeration in some of these events or how it's interpreted? Remember that first bullet point that I mentioned? Exaggeration of events, blown out of proportion, can be caused by members of the general public. Other times could be caused by people within the case, depending how they word it at one point and then another, or amongst different people of interest, how they word it. Because just to put it in perspective, Brooke Bounds Carter said, nothing dodgy happened with the shower situation. Carter, Jasmine there, just helping, but no touch-based contact was made with Noah in any shape or format from what Brooke was or is aware of. Well, from what Carter Combs said, who was a witness, who was one of the girls present, there was a bit of touching to hold him up at times, a bit on and off. Nothing dodgy, I wouldn't say, but it shows that one person says touching took place, another person said touching didn't take place. The one that said it didn't take place wasn't there. The one that said touching did take place was present. So it's just about understanding that area. But it doesn't always mean to say that the person that was there to see it is always true. Sometimes you get exceptions where a person who wasn't even there to see it is a little bit more balanced or a little bit more truthful compared to a witness. It all comes down to the position they're in and what they want to say and what they think is the best answer to give at the time. If they're allowed to give a true answer or they feel like the general public don't deserve one, it can differ. But in terms of the bathroom situation from the perspective of witnesses that claim to have seen the video that was once posted on Facebook for a short period of time before then it was abruptly taken down. Witnesses said they saw Noah Presgrove in the shower, kind of hunched over. The video recording was very short. It was from the back. He was wearing black shorts in the shower, and he didn't look too well, but he was still standing. Well, based off all of that, has it been exaggerated? Has it been misinterpreted? Why would Noah be wearing black shorts in the shower? Because normally when you're having a wash, you're not going to really be wearing clothes for most part of it. So why would some people who witnessed it said that they saw Noah wearing shorts in the shower, and then everyone else is interpreting it likely as Noah was naked? And then when a video was done of Noah without his consent, depends how you look at it, to be honest. This tripod a little bit wonky. See, in terms of numbers of people, such as with the bathroom situation, how many people were truly present there? Jasmine, Carter, Noah's best buddy, as Carter says, but it wasn't Jack. So what other best friends did Noah have? Unless it was just a friend. And who would a friend be? Brylan Sweat or somebody else? Would the person jumping on in, having a shower, be an individual from the side-by-side rollover or another person? If it's another person like Brylan, well, at that time, technically Brylan should be asleep, like with Isaac, like with Mikey, like with Caden. But from certain timelines, how Caden may have said that, there's been some counterpoints along the way to suggest that whilst Caden may have been sleeping, also to an extent, some of the other guys were not sleeping, they were just resting. So they could have been up and moving about on and off. So there's that. The blown out proportion part of the shower situation is the state Noah Presgrove was in. Exaggeration, or I could also say in fairness, underestimating it. Because some people have said Noah Presgrove was dirty, needed a wash, that was it. That's what Carter Combs said, a witness. Yet Caden Pressey is saying that Noah Presgrove had a bloodied nose, a bit of an injury. Somewhat visible, right? You see blood on you, not good. Stevie Howard and or Brooke Bounds Carter made a reference to a busted lip only. So it's interesting how different people who may or may not have been present at the time to witness it, but may have heard or witnessed it in some other way afterwards, maybe through hard evidence as an alternative, to make a note of, damaged lip or damaged nose or no injury whatsoever. Turns out that the one that was in the moment to witness the after effects, like Carter Combs, was the one to minimalize and play down everything. But then someone like Brooke Bounds Carter and Stevie Howard, who weren't even there, actually acknowledged that Noah had some kind of injury. So why would a first-hand witness not acknowledge the injuries, but a person who wasn't even there acknowledge the injuries? Oh, because the ones who weren't there don't know what they're talking about, but Carter Combs does. Well, as I said earlier, sometimes you don't have to be there in the moment to be the one who's actually more truthful than someone who was. See, with Caden Pressey, the middle man, he was there, but not truly there to witness it because he was asleep from the looks of it. But at a later point, Caden was shown a photo from a video of the situation with Noah and a bloodied nose. Doesn't quite tie in with Brooke or Stevie Howard about the lip, but the nose was acknowledged. In general, there was a bit of common ground between different people opposing forces that agreed that there was injury sustained to Noah. Minor, not major. But for one person who was there in the moment to see it, or should have seen it, to play it off, minimalize, why? Oh, he only needed a shower because he was dirty. Oh, forget about the busted lip, forget about the nose. We don't need to acknowledge that. Why not? So that could be interpreted as underestimated. That's another problem in the case. And that's an inner problem in the case because of people that were there maybe to witness it in some way or share amongst one another. Is there anything else to acknowledge there? I mean, the other underestimating factor to an extent would have been, from what we heard of with time, about the argument between Noah Presgrove and Jack Newton. Jack Newton implied it as if both were having a go at each other to do with girl trouble, regardless of who started it. Both apologised and were on better terms afterwards, cried and hugged, and it was okay in the end. And it was like, oh, so back and forth, pushing and tugging and whatnot. But then from like what we heard from Justin Roy and more so Caden Pressey, at least in one of the interviews at least, that the actual situation was Noah Presgrove started it with Jack because of what Jack had done at the time or before the party, with going behind Noah's back and flirting with Noah's girlfriend or Noah's ex-girlfriend, depending which way you look at it, because that seems to be mixed within the bloody community and how it's referenced, but still underestimated, or maybe not underestimated, but actually planned out and worded that way by the likes of Jack Newton by saying, you know, we both apologised, we both had things to say, but then you got Caden Pressey and to an extent Justin Roy that are mentioning that, no, it was actually Jack that was the problem, and Noah was giving him a piece of his mind of what he truly felt about Jack and stabbing him in the back. So that's more one-sided, that, and any apologies more so should come from Jack, not Noah, and as well, not like 50-50, you know, one's caused a problem, the other person's on the receiving end of it, supposedly. So in terms of how that story's told, that particular argument is interesting, isn't it? Different sides to a particular event, underestimating it by some, or self-manipulative, external manipulative minimalization as a feature, and a term that I created in life, and a term that can be applied in cases like this. In terms of a deeper level, whether it's an exaggeration or not, because it does differ from what Justin Roy says to what Caden Pressey has said, that Caden did not get involved in the argument, that Caden just overheard it and that was it. But Justin Roy mentions that the argument, which was Saturday past midnight going into Sunday morning, 12 p.m, that it was aggressive, that it was pushing and shoving, quite tense, a bit of a fight breaking out. Justin saying Caden Pressey had to break the fight up. So why does Caden not acknowledge that? Why is Caden like, well, I've got no part in it, I just overheard it, that was it? Would that be interpreted as one person exaggerates the argument and amplifies, magnifies the impact of it to make it sound much worse than what it really was? And then someone like Caden Pressey is like, you know what, Saturday and going into Saturday night, it was pretty calm, normal party, no big deal, not much really going on. But then you got Stephanie Millan in that Snapchat conversation that worded it as Noah Presgrove had no beef with anyone. And in terms of the term beef, I find that term absolutely degenerative. It basically means, did Noah Presgrove have any conflict, falling out, any drama with any other people, and vice versa? And Stephanie Millan, who claims to be a party goer, who supposedly has been documented in some of the footage from Ken Pressey's point of view, who also returned back post news of Noah's death. Whilst Jasmine Millan stayed at the house, Stephanie Millan left. We don't know what time. Little factor to throw in there. Why not? Stephanie Millan, who was there, said Noah Presgrove had no conflict. There was no arguments amongst one another. And as for the side-by-side rollover, I think it was being implied that it never happened or it just didn't happen. And no mentions of injuries. So Stephanie Millan, for being a party goer and a witness, for going under the radar, although maybe they don't play a part in the case and they're not a person of interest, they've really gone quiet in the case. And I just find it very interesting how people in the community can lock on to Caden Pressey exclusively, or lock on to Jack, or lock on to the host Avery or Carter or Logan to an extent there, fixate on names like that, drag them through the mud, interrogate, be negative, do whatever that needs to be done, and beyond in unnecessary ways. But as for Stephanie Millan, oh, we'll just forget about her, even though Stephanie is the one to say that Noah had no conflict, no arguments with anyone, and it was just all fine. Really? And that as for the side-by-side rollover, not really acknowledging that to the same degree as other people. What did Stephanie actually see then? And how much does she actually know? And in terms of even if it was by a fake person under a different account trying to get Stephanie to speak, Would it have been the same person who was also trying to get Colton Newton to speak separately on that later Snapchat conversation, who was also the one possibly behind a manipulated post on Facebook in a comment section on Caleb Newton's post of his own, where a comment by Avery, which looked either photoshopped or there was like double vision of it, looked very dodgy, talking about how father and son sleep with the Combs girls. Is this all tied to one person behind these two different Snapchat accounts and conversations to reach out to party goers? The intent behind it to try and get answers, but the deceit along the way, having to pretend to be somebody else, clearly shows that they lack confidence in themselves. They doubt themselves that if they showed their true self, their true presence, and made an appearance to a party goer, then there'd be no answers to begin with. So what? Desperation, the only way is to fake it to get the answers, and yet there you've got Warlight Ref that at times releasing never seen before material. Do I have to be fake? No. Is my hair, eyelashes natural? Lips too? Yeah. So it can be somewhat maintained and you can still get a reasonable outcome. But, you know, what I just threw all together, possibly chains and links, who knows? Endless possibilities. But, you know, Stephanie Milan has gone under the radar. And even if they are an innocent person, I'm not saying they are, I'm not saying that they're not, but it's just because of the mentality of other people that like to focus in on one or two people. Why do others neglect the other party goers? Is there an agenda? I mean, if people who are like fixated on suspicion, dodgy behavior, then you'd be thinking that Stephanie Milan's responses could be somewhat questionable by playing this down, by playing that down, by saying this didn't happen, nothing like that happened. Really, there was no arguments whatsoever. And yet, by other people and points of views, there was. So why is Stephanie the odd one out regarding that? Where was she actually at the time? To not see it, to not hear it, even though you're all maybe in the same room as one another or nearby to at least overhear it roughly, or the tone or the change of it. When did Stephanie Milan actually leave the party house? To then later at what, 7 in the morning, or by Caden's timeline, 6:30, return back? Why? Why did they leave in the first place? Could be for numerous reasons, of course, but it's just worth questioning that. And more so, the additional follow-up where you had Colton Newton, older brother to Jack Newton, that reached out to that whoever person that first contacted Stephanie Milan through Snapchat, and Colton said via Facebook Messenger, hey, you know, talk through me. Don't be reaching out to her or the Milans. If you continue doing so, I'll come and get you, or I'll come and find you. What does Colton Newton have to do with the Milan family? Why, of all people, that one person is defending Stephanie just as a friend, but in a way of threatening language, true threatening language. And then at a later point, there was another Snapchat post or an actual selfie of Colton, I think it was. I believe Colton is the one with the fuzzy ginger hair to an extent, or at least at the time. And he said, did he say something like, come down to wherever and we'll talk it out, or we'll talk about it. And then there might have been another reference elsewhere saying, you bring some of your guys, I'll bring some of mine, and we'll meet up. Could be interpreted as almost like a fight, a beginning of one. So even just the theme of threats within this case have been a problem, has raised eyebrows. Poor language, heat of the moment, still doesn't justify it. It's problematic. It can put people's back up against the walls. It can add to the problems, and it can make people dig their own holes deeper than what they already are. But the theme of exaggeration creeps back up because there have been times where a person of interest in the case, or a person on behalf of someone, a friend, a family member, has said something directly to a person online or to another person of interest, and then people online have then come across it, interpreted it as a threat when it clearly wasn't, or it just wasn't that much of a threat to begin with and it wasn't that problematic, but people amplified it and turned it up more and thought, yeah, it's really, really bad behavior. Oh my God, someone's going to die. Now, I'll give you an example of an exaggerated threat. So when it came to that point of view with Caden Pressey at a time in, I think it was 2024, in a diner with his girlfriend, whoever that girlfriend is, whether it be the ex-girlfriend or current girlfriend, because on Reddit, you got all kinds of stuff going on there from a certain point of view, bloody hell. But Caden at a time with his girlfriend in a diner, along with Logan Jernigan, and at the time, Logan's boyfriend, JJ Bumpass. No longer together, JJ Logan, but at the time they were with Caden and Caden's girlfriend. And Jack Newton reached out to Caden via Snapchat at the time, basically inquiring about wanting to rehear Caden's story, timeline of events, what happened. Can you reconfirm it with me? Can you tell me once again? Can you tell me now and answer and ask this before you make me upset? And the way people interpreted that was, whoa, that's a really big threat. This is really bad. And when I saw it at the time, you know, in terms of the word upset, that can come across as an umbrella term for many different emotions. Person A can get upset, but it's different to person B who gets upset. Being upset could mean getting angry, frustrated, aggressive. Another person that becomes upset could be crying their eyes out. And then an alternative person that gets upset could be quite subdued. They don't release much, but inside it really is torture and they can't breathe. And it builds and builds and builds. For some, explodes, and for others, it might simmer down with time. Different formats, different expressions of emotions under the umbrella term being upset. So when Jack Newton said, could you just retell me this and that before I get upset, before I get sad, before I cry, before I get frustrated, it could mean anything. It's open to interpretation, but it's not guaranteed or set in stone. So when people say it's a threat, it's a direct, big, bad threat. No, it's not. You're exaggerating it. You're overly emotional. You're too invested in the case. You got a conflict of interest, maybe with Caden Pressey. So whenever anyone else says something towards Caden, which could be under slightly negative tone or edging on the boundary, because you got a conflict of interest, you amplify it by 1,000 and make it seem much worse than what it actually is. And if that's been applied to this case, like with the party itself, whether it be the amount of people that showed up at the party all at once, or if it be alcohol consumption, that can be exaggerated as well. If people have a strong passion, and I'm not denying or I'm not playing down the social hosting laws and the rules and the follow up on that and the petition. I'm not dismissing it, but what I'm saying is, as an example, there might be a couple of people that are very passionate for the follow-up injustice in regards to the social hosting laws being broken, those that believe in that. Some may have a stronger mindset and a bit of an agenda in trying to enhance and crank up and exaggerate what the party was like, the alcohol that was present and the condition people were in, and also have an agenda in pushing it even further as regards with Noah Presgrove, and then pushing it even further with the broken record of not quite understanding it because they don't want to, because they're still fixated on the social hosting laws, but they want to say like Noah Presgrove was completely out of it, he couldn't have done this, he couldn't have done that, then he wouldn't have left in the first place to cool off. But you people, or some of you, believe in Caden Pressey, so if Caden Pressey says it's normal for Noah to walk off, especially when he's drunk, and he's done it almost all the time when Caden's been at a party, why would this one be any different? You believe in Caden Pressey and what he says, but you're also going against him at the same time because your own little agendas about the social hosting laws. So it's kind of conflicting with Caden Pressey, but at the same time you're saying you trust Caden Pressey, but you're actually going behind Caden Pressey's back behind that, and you're also pushing something else in an unnatural way. Even if it's possibility, like it could be true, you're pushing it a bit too far with extra additional stuff to exaggerate it, and the naturalness goes away and it becomes unrealistic. There we go. Do you see how it all links together? From one separate event to another, human behavior can transfer and it becomes a bit of an issue. As I said, we're going in and out, we're drifting in and out because these particular events that I mention can be attached with a theme, a problem of today and others below. Whilst, yes, we're talking about Noah walking away to cool off, it can be simplified to an extent, but you got the counterpoints by people. And in fairness, I do need to focus in on that right now as best as I can. Okay. So, Noah leaving the house to get fresh air. That sounds like common sense. It sounds normal behavior, does it not? Simply walking outside to breathe. No big deal, could be possible. But the factor of the shoes, that's unknown of. Yes, Noah was found with mismatched shoes, but did he put mismatched shoes on in the first place? If he did, is that just because he was lazy or he wasn't quite thinking? And if he did put shoes on, yes, you could ask and say, well, if he's not going that far, he's not intending on leaving the property, but only the house, why would you need shoes on for that? Well, in fairness, if, and it's not guaranteed, but if party goers who were in the field at some point, such as in Jack's Ford Ranger to shoot at animals, exit and enter and walk about in the field, whilst vegetation and certain areas may be soft and squishy depending or just simply dry, you don't know what you could be stepping in or stepping on, so it's natural to wear footwear for protection so you don't get bitten, so you don't stand on anything spiky or sharp, and no foreign objects, avoid all that. Whilst the patio area, the front porchway, smooth concrete, kind of cold-ish, which could be useful to people. Saw that with Noah Presgrove when he was, with no shoes, with no socks. But you look at the dirt road, and if Noah had gone down the dirt road from what witnesses say heading east, would you be wearing shoes at that point? Possibly. Well, if that's the case, and if Noah had put on either mismatched or his own pair of shoes at the time, if Noah had put on his own shoes at the time when then leaving and later found with mismatched shoes, then likely you could argue and say there is foul play based off that scenario and conditions. I would understand. If Noah had mismatched shoes on to begin with, and that's his own doing or recklessness, and the fit the same with Caden's, it is what it is, you could slightly reduce it to less likely of foul play. But for Noah to even consider putting on shoes, you could interpret as he intended on covering a bit more distance. That does not mean to say going onto the highway. You could just simply interpret it as leaving the patio, the concrete area, going across the grass, little grassy island at the front area of the house, walking down a dirt road, which could have those spiky balls and sharp objects and anything else. You don't want to step on that. You want to protect your feet. You put footwear on. If you came on down to the party wearing shoes, you may even leave the party wearing shoes, or at least if you're distancing yourself from the house but remaining on property site, you can still wear shoes, no big deal. If Noah was found with his own shoes and they weren't mismatched, would people be more likely to believe that it's just as simple as Noah leaving the house to cool off? Maybe. The other elements are what people were throwing in was, once again, alcohol levels. Oh, Noah Presgrove, the shower, he needed assistance. People had to hold him up. He wouldn't have been able to walk about. He wouldn't even been able to go that far. So it's unlikely that he actually left the house to begin with. Well, to be honest, whilst people can say that, people are basing it off an event which not many people have even seen, and that would be the footage of the shower. We don't know what condition Noah was in. We can be told he needed help and assistance, and he may have needed a hand here and there, but we still don't know the body language of Noah. We don't know how conscious or unconscious he was. We don't know how his stance and posture truly was. We don't know the quality or, what his skin looked like, if it was damaged or not, or anything bruised or beaten. It's like with when people jump in and say, yep, Noah was beaten, yep, and that shower, yeah, it did happen, but it was actually washing his dead body. So you tell me that they killed him, they took a dead body into the house, avoiding everyone's attention, whilst blood's dripping about here and there, to go into the bathroom, wash a dead body like a mannequin, hold it up as well, and then do what with it? Seems very far-fetched in my opinion. And yeah, it's just a theory and an idea, no big deal at the end of the day, people shouldn't be attacked. But the way people were wording it was wording it as if it was a fact, as if they did know with confidence. That in itself is a problem in the casing community, which has infested and impacted certain supposed events. People have turned theories and ideas into events, which may or may not have happened. That's a big issue there, once again. So whenever people refer back to the shower event, the shower video, likely you have no clue, I have no clue what it looked like visually, what state Noah was in. If it was to do a comparison, it wouldn't be possible because we only see it from one side. That 1:05 in the morning, Noah, pretty much okay. 1:50, a still photo, looks reasonably okay, stood up, not needing to be held up. But then from 1:50 to 2:40, in between that, supposedly a rollover. Was it the rollover that may have temporarily disorientated Noah? I wonder. And, you know, if there was any other footage after the shower, such as the supposed claim of teabagging, well, if there was any footage and proof of that, then it could show that Noah was energetic and he was capable of leaving to walk away. But we've not seen that publicly, so we can't do a comparison there. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. So you've got to be very careful when it comes to talking about the shower situation. If you haven't seen the footage, then it's unknown of. Anything could be possible, just as possible as Noah walking away, even if you believe that he's not got the energy or the stability to do so. There's always that possibility that Noah was able to overcome it and put up with the drunkenness because he's got a built-up resilience against it due to the simple fact that he's been drunk in the past. And once again, people who may say, well, alcohol is the factor which makes me think Noah did not leave the house, could not walk. But by the way, I also believe in Caden Pressey, where Caden said, whenever Noah Presgrove walks away from a house, a party of some sort, when he's there, it's because Noah is drunk and he wants to cool off, cool down, so he doesn't make an impact or spread any negativity on the atmosphere, the party itself. So whilst Noah Presgrove is drunk, not only can he actually physically walk away successfully and most of the time return back, but in the moment of being drunk, Noah Presgrove can consciously make the decision to use reasoning ability and think, you know what, I'm drunk, I'm not quite there with it, but I still have the capacity mentally to think I need to detach myself to be better for myself, my health, and to make sure no one else is hurt. So the level of consideration, it's quite a selfless act to do. Normally, when people can be drunk, they're not quite thinking. Some drunken people can be a complete mess. Others can be very aggressive. Some can be very inconsiderate, and other factors in between. But for Noah Presgrove to be drunk and still display reasoning and still be able to physically function, and he's done that in the past, and Caden has witnessed it, then why is it not possible this time round? Why are people saying it's not possible? Why are people that say when it comes to the alcohol levels, because of that factor of what we saw in the autopsy and wherever else, that means and determines, set in stone, that Noah couldn't have walked away. But he has walked away in the past. He had been drunk in the past. What's different this time round? Oh, the alcohol levels. But you can't say that because we don't know the alcohol levels in the past. So we can't even do a comparison there to come to a conclusion about that. Just like how you can't do a comparison with the state Noah was in before and after with the shower and before that because we haven't got the shower footage or a screenshot of it. Can't do a comparison. So anything is possible. If anything is possible, you can still respect people being skeptical about maybe Noah couldn't have done this or couldn't have done that. But still, countering it at times with a level of common sense based off patterns of behaviour in the past. That's the one comparative tool you could use if there's a level of consistency. The consistency in how Noah behaves and acts around strangers in the past. Consistency of how Noah Presgrove behaves around girls in the past when drunk. And from what some have said, like Caden Pressey, when Caden is drunk, he becomes flirty, becomes more confident, talkative with a range of different girls. Just well ties in with the final party Noah attended, where he may have been talking to different girls like Logan or Carter and anyone else in between. So what's happened in the past likely has happened again this time round. A level of consistency. You might not be able to compare over the days with Noah at the party, but or even if you couldn't, you can definitely compare the past with what's been said. Still, you got to take someone's word for it, which would be Caden Pressey, who was a witness to wherever Noah was. If Caden was there, Caden seeing certain parts, elements of it. And that's even past behaviour way back then, where you might not be able to remember the stuff, but Caden has a good recollection, maybe because it was just a routine. And when there's a routine, you're more likely to remember it, whether it be your own or somebody else's. Like when it comes to humans, for me, I come across humans, and also more so in real life, I come across the dialogue, come across the conversations, the body language, the behaviour, the responses of people. Some out there can bore me, especially the negative, or it's just not functional. But still, I know what to expect. I know what's going to be said next. I know how they're going to act. I know the typical default response lines. I know the typical BS lines. Too predictable, too obvious, too much routine, so predictable. Remember it, ingrained in the head. And it doesn't even have to be towards myself. It can be towards somebody else. So with that being in mind, for Caden Pressey to ever be in the presence of Noah Presgrove, and it's happened so often, it's just the norm. Tying back in with the case of whatever is the norm, acknowledge and compare to the past, which could be the same. Whatever is an abnormality that stands out on this one occasion at this particular party needs to be looked in a lot closer. It's just worth pointing it out there, okay? Anything else that has been exaggerated, blown out of proportion, whether someone has witnessed something or not, could be Dina Rose with the reference to murder footage, a group of people, pack of wolves, beating, punching, kicking Noah, all the gory details mentioned in the background. A lot to say. Definitely sounds like they've seen something, but have they really? Has anyone else? Not from the looks of it. And if it was that groundbreaking, and if it was passed to the right people and nothing done, well, yes, you could say, well, nothing done, but there is something out there you could push the agenda of. There's a form of corruption if no action's been taken, if there's this level of evidence already. But then the other counterpoint of is maybe not much has been done because maybe it never existed, or maybe it was never passed over in the first place. There's like little examples of that. But for people to say, by the end of this week, the case will be solved, be looking out on the news for it. Did that ever happen? No. So that was exaggerated bullshit. Hype train, hyping things up. Why do people hype it up? Do they hype it up because they know it's going nowhere, but they just want to mess with other people and play psychological warfare? Or is it more than likely people hype stuff up because they're either delusional people or overly positive? Sometimes overly positive people can be naive. It's not their fault. It's who they are. But still, who they are can be unique and positive in other ways that can be acknowledged. Whereas with me, I can be more realistic, but a lot more negative and a lot more darker than most humans out there, okay? So I will pick up on more, but whilst I may pick up on more and this and that, there'll be limitations to the way I am. But you mix a positive person with a dark person, what do you get? Who knows? Could be all kinds of possibilities. Anyway, any other exaggerations? Well, I'll refer back to it afterwards if need be. Any final reference about Noah walking away, you could use a bit of a negotiation. You know, if you want to try and give that full perspective, that full idea of combining everybody's thoughts, levels of skepticism, trying to merge it all together in a way where everyone could be right in some way to an extent, I would say it's likely for Noah to at least leave the party house. I'm not saying the property, just the house, to cool off and to get away from some people, with the previous events occurring from the shower to more so the bedroom debacle and tension there. Based off historical records, past routines and behaviour, as witnessed by Caden Pressey, a friend to Noah, it was normal for that to happen, to walk away, especially when drunk. Tick, 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 the boxes. Okay. The act of putting on shoes could have been, to an extent, Noah in a bit of a rush or just wanting to get out as fast as possible to get away. Put on whatever shoes that are present, what's available, regardless of consequences, and then exit with the intention of covering a bit of distance on site of the property, maybe going east if it's true with what certain partygoers had said, but not directly onto the highway, stopping just before that, seeking refuge, at a building nearby, or at any vehicles parked down the roadway if there were, thinking, you know what, I don't feel too great because of the alcohol. I'm a bit sleepy. May need a rest. Maybe seek somewhere to rest and settle down for a little bit. But from there on then, the possibilities of something bad happening onwards. So hopefully that makes sense, right? In the past, I did say if Noah Presgrove had gone towards the highway, that could have been interpreted as an act of desperation, an intense urge to leave the house, the people, the property, because he really needed to get away. And because no one would give him an opportunity that denied him of that, Noah took matters into his own hands and it backfired. That's how I said it in the past. And although it could be wrong, that concept, it was said with precision, appropriate language, wording, and reasoning ability. If other people took that approach with the other outcomes in this case, things would be a lot better off. What I do want to add in as a standalone point, a problem in this case, is the claims and mentions of people being attacked regardless of what side you're on. But I have maybe not directly been attacked, but I've been prodded at times. So if there's a point where I believe it's murder and foul play, or one or the other, it's all okay. But then the moment I take in consideration other areas, outcomes, or I just simply stop acknowledging cause of death, and I'm looking at the events building up to it. Some people here and there may prod me and say, yo, what do you think, Warlight Ref? Come on, you need an answer. You need to give it. Surely you can see it. It's murder. Surely you can see it. It's foul play. Come on, how can you not see it? Do not prod me. How dare you? We will have some serious problems if that is repeated, okay? Patience, patience, patience. There is a process to it all. Oh, yes, we are getting serious now, a little bit intense. But I thought that's exactly what you wanted, yeah? No dilly-dallying about, just locked in. You got what you wanted. But that aside, when people rush in at me and say, what do you think's the cause of death? Surely you must know. Surely it's this. You got to be thinking like me. Why should I be thinking like you? Why do you want me? Why are you forcing me to think a certain particular way when you know that I'm trying to do it in a balanced way? Are you trying to hijack my mindset? You're going to try and hijack my channel? Just like how other people on and off have advised me and directed me what I should and shouldn't do on my channel? Even though those same individuals should be aware that I'm trying to do it in a balanced way to get the best outcome out of everything. But by these people saying what they say or demanding or pushing or prodding, it would actually lead to more worse situations, maybe for me and just in general for the case. And it just ruins everything that has been built with time. Why do people do that? Overly emotional, overly passionate, blinded their vision. So it impacts their behavior. they lose control. And those that lose control, some at times are the same to complain about others when they themselves have created their own problems or other people's. Naughty, naughty, exactly. So it might sound like a bit of a telling off, but I think humans do need telling off from time to time. Does that involve discipline too? Let's not quite go there, because some people will interpret it the wrong way. And for others, maybe very disappointed because they think it's just a little bit teasing. They want the full package. Excuse me? Anyway, whatever that's about. But yeah, recklessness in humans at times, which has led to bridges breaking down, which has then led to information being lost or rejected, opportunities lost. That's a waste, wasn't it? Narrows the case more. Possible truth fades further into the background. But yeah, what I would say in terms of cause of death, I'm not actively thinking about it, because I think the events, the grey areas before leading up to it are more important in a way. Because once you learn the backstory, you may have a better idea for the likely cause and outcome of Noah's death then. You know, fill in the grey areas, learn about alternative factors, timestamps, and any other issues along the way which could be a possible motive or a possible alibi for someone or for Noah, or the reasoning behind, the atmosphere behind what could have followed next. I'm sure there'll be still quite a few grey areas in this case, even if they're minor. Minor grey areas are just as important. If it's relevant to the timeline, relevant to the area and the people present, it's important regardless. And I found that in the past, when it's come to past cases of information, interviews where people had said, I don't want to watch this, I'm not going to look at it, oh, it was disappointing anyway. I've come along, I've listened to the documentary, I've watched an interview, I've picked up on all the minor details, and I'm like, wait, hold on, all of this is very important. Just like the Dylan Rounds case, whilst yes, the Paramount Plus documentary, which I myself starred in without my consent, and footage used without my consent, copyright you could say, and as well edited to twist the words to make it sound like from my mouth when it wasn't, as a means of damaging me but forcing their own agenda to an extent as for online sleuths, even though I was more balanced and had better standards than other wretched cretins, but I was picked out on. It gave, you know, the dark side. And when I say the dark side, I don't mean the dark side in the Presgrove case. I mean the dark side, the undead zombie horde elsewhere in a different community, ammunition. And whilst people had parties and celebrations online, laughing and ridiculing my name, at the end of the day, it just went to show that a bastard from the UK appeared more in a documentary in the US than other US people have who claim to be about the case. So I made more of an impact in it than other people did who also claimed to be focused on the case and more involved. No, you're not. I did more. Maybe not for the quite same reasons, but still appeared. There you go. And why would I have been selected? Why would I have been picked? Because I was the catalyst. I was the only one covering the case day in, day out for 4 years, almost straight. So of course, the chances of appearing somewhere or something being used in my name or presence is more likely. Just like the Kenny Veach case, where the Y-Files with over 2 million subscribers did a bit of a documentary part 1, part 2 with the Kenny Veach M-Cave case mystery. And whether it be my footage or research used was put in it. And I was credited to an extent within the description. Granted, a bit more effort could have been applied and additional research could have been added because there was some other additional stuff. And of course, cretins from either that channel or elsewhere had the cheek to come to my channel and say, well, you know what? We wouldn't have known about you. We don't actually care about your side. We only care about the big channel. Yeah, the only reason why the big channel was able to do what they do is because me and some other people and some hikers that covered the case from different points of views. Without us, you would be fucked. Okay? But these peasant-like humans, peasant-like mentalities, scuttling around. They were in no position to be talking. Absolutely pathetic, abysmal abomination, bombastic bastards. Okay? But if we just focus back in with the Noah Presgrove case, the other point what I was mentioning was about wrong dates. That's another issue in this case. I know we've kind of drifted off to another direction, but you know, this is all raw. There are no scripts, nothing in sight, but it's based off memory. It's based off what I've witnessed and seen. Without any like particular focuses, there'd be, well, actually, no, you can actually mention it to an extent. Within the community, it can be a problem how people interpret and how people cherry pick stuff from certain places, platforms, elsewhere, and then repost without the context or misinterpret the context within the footage. It can happen internally within the case, and that can be more memory-based issues. It can be like with Caden Pressey, right? He originally said at 1:30 in the morning, that's when he recorded Brylan slapping Noah. But as the hard evidence shows, the outline of it from the gallery point of view of the person's phone, it said 1:05 in the morning, right? You see, it's like at least a 25-minute time difference there from what Caden stated in, I think, his police private interview of it happened at 1:30, that particular event. No, it didn't. It happened at 1:05. So, incorrect dates, incorrect times more so. Let me make it clear. Dates and times, both are important. More so dates, because it needs to be on the actual day of stuff happening. The time, just as important, the timing of, does it link to the time of the person's death or earlier or around the time of something else unfolding? But just use an example, and maybe I'd do it as a standalone video if there is time. There is a post, particular one, on TikTok, SoccerDad0708, which is basically Avery Combs' TikTok profile. People have analysed it in the past. They found a compilation video of a range of different people and some familiar faces from different parties, different memories and moments in life over the year of 2023, supposedly. But the date, I think, of when it was posted or around about posted was like at the time or close to or close after the actual party that Noah attended. So people were interpreting it, I believe, as in what you see in this footage and from certain points of views is actually recorded from the party that Noah attended. So when you see an overweight, ginger-looking Texas cowboy who's on the back of Avery, it takes Brokeback Mountain to a whole new level. But, you know, Avery Carter able to carry that cowboy on the back like a rodeo. That's just being lighthearted. But that ginger-looking cowboy, who was he? How relevant is he to the party? Oh, is he a Texas boy, or is he an actual adult? And it forces that like agenda and perception of much older people around much younger people. What the hell is going on? Well, from what's been mentioned in recent time, and once again, I'll do a separate video about it to try and look into it more, is that particular one, that clip of Avery and maybe Carter, outside in the dark, unknown the location, to be fair, because you don't see the house, you can't identify the actual place of the guy on the back, that's been claimed to be from a different party. And that other bits of footage is also from a different party or a different time in 2023. And I would agree with that, because some of the footage that I saw was of a completely different location, a parking lot, a mall, or a friend's house, but daytime, around maybe a child or something, and then some other compilation clips. All random stuff in Walmart, I think. Okay, was Beauty Garumo photobombing it in the background? Yeah, no. But it was just like a compilation. That's it, a year in review, memories, that's it, not that deep. But if the date is the date of the party, or the same month. I can't remember it exactly. I know it's 2023, but I can't remember the month, right, and the day. But at the time, people were interpreting it as the date and month was at the time of the party from what they saw. And how I interpreted it at the time was, well, some of it looks like it could be from the party because some of the footage was actually from the house. But still, it can be at a different time. Doesn't have to be at the time. I believe as a bit more context, when I mentioned about a different party, that cowboy guy rodeo on the girl's back supposedly was from a party the week before. If so, and I will answer it I will ask the question once again in a follow-up video. If it was a party beforehand, and if some of that footage where it showed like Carter Combs wafting a hat or a pillow, another person, there's no other way of saying it, bent over, shaking their rear, and that was in the kitchen or dining area of the party house, was that as well a week before, and was it all at the same place? And if it was, is that what ties in indirectly with what Jan Fiorillo was talking about a party occurring a weekend before, and that party was reported to police and no action was taken? But similar actions took place and maybe similar people showed up as well. You see? At the end of the day, a party that takes place a weekend before may not be relevant whatsoever to the party which Noah attended, unless there was any bad blood that followed over if Noah had attended both parties. But what it goes to show is, if Noah Presgrove, and it's only if, because I don't know for certain, if a party did take place at the same place, location, a weekend before, alcohol involved, people getting drunk, certain acts of recklessness, and Noah was present there with maybe strangers and he didn't die, oh, that's fine, no big deal. But then the next weekend, the final party Noah attended, then something went bad. Oh, now social hosting laws, now there needs to be justice, now people need to get punished. You see where it's going? Yes, Justin Roy had mentioned that multiple times people have tried reporting the party social hosting. Okay, but you're not answering the question. But then again, in fairness, Justin didn't have the chance to answer because I questioned it later, but I did not see a follow-up response from Justin, so not much I can do about it. But what I will say is, it's okay for Justin Roy to say that people or a person followed up reporting the party numerous times over the course of a period. Yeah. What year? What point? Oh, post-death of Noah Presgrove, reporting it constantly after that. That's not good enough. If you're passionate, if you're truly passionate about social hosting laws, and if they're broken, there needs to be justice and people need to get punished. If people are only putting that in place when there is a death and not before that, it just seems just a little bit one-sided. If you're really passionate and all in about it and very pushy, you should also be reporting it the weekend before, months before, of when similar parties took place, laws were broken. Oh, no one died. Well, we don't need to report it then. But if you reported it originally, it could have prevented what happened after. Is Warlight Ref blaming people in the community for that? No. I'm just putting it into perspective. If you're very pushy and if you're very passionate, but you only take action now, post-death of Noah, what more could have been done? What more should have been done before that? The weekend before that? See, I did ask the question. The party the weekend before, which Jan Fiorillo mentioned, and a person reported it. Who reported it? And for what reason? Whoever that person was, if it was because of social hosting laws being broken and underage drinking, and if that same individual was also very pushy post-death of Noah, you could understand and respect their mentality. They're all in with the idea. of justice. But some people join the justice bandwagon once something bad has happened. But as for before that, oh, it was no problem, turn a blind eye here and there, it's just people having fun. Yeah, underage drinking, who cares? It's harmless, no harm, no damage done. Oh, but now there's a death. Oh my God, I'm outraged, I'm pissed off now. I'm gonna be pushing this. Some people can switch up quick like that because there's no consistency, but there's still a lot of passion in them. It's just unfortunate. That's just my observation. I'm not directing that towards anyone. No names have been directly mentioned in regards to certain areas like that. So if anyone does try attacking or questioning me or doing any long interrogation comments towards me, it will not work. It just won't, right? So you got wrong dates there with certain TikTok posts, which aren't relevant to the time. To an extent, that can apply to other party footage, the date and timing of it, but also misidentifying the people in the location. There was a time in the past when I wasn't around in the case, but it was debunked in the end, that people somehow found footage of a party, of people in a fight, and labelled it as Noah Presgrove. Could you identify it was Noah in the footage? No, you just had to assume it. It was obscured, but just because it showed a party and it was nighttime, yes, it's US, so it must mean it's Oklahoma, and it must mean it's in that particular area near Terrell, and it must mean it's Noah Presgrove, and it must mean the murder footage, game over, the end. At the end of the day, it was old footage, it was in the past, and it wasn't even to do with the party or the party goers or Noah Presgrove whatsoever. It was random footage that was found and applied to the case. That's a level of desperation. It can create a mockery of the case or a mockery of the murder theory. Because at the end of the day, there'll be genuine people with reasoning ability that may think it's a murder case and foul play. Those type of people should not be attacked. Just like the genuine people that may believe it to be some kind of accident, or if Noah had been in the back of a truck and somehow fell out. If that's what you think, that's your opinion, that's your theory, you shouldn't be attacked for it. You're not causing any harm or damage. You might be wrong. Some may think, God, what a silly idea. But there's no need for that additional resistance, because that does no good either. If a person is keeping to themselves, not causing any trouble, then why do you need to go after them? Just like our own life, very often a quiet person will be criticised and patronised by another prick out there, but at the end of the day, a quiet person is 100 times better than a gobby loudmouth bastard that causes a lot of trouble, right? But still in the moment, humans are that incompetent and impetuous that they don't see it that way. But then, they're on the receiving end, they will complain at later points, it makes them a bit of a hypocrite, and when someone's a hypocrite, yeah, dead to me. Lost cause, non-negotiable. So, in regards to the concept of murder, some can be pushy, other people can be more patient, and with reasoning, there needs to be a level of patience. If there's no patience, things can be rushed. If people rush me with my videos, or if people rush me with my outcomes and conclusions, that's a problem. See, you know what the funny thing was? There was actually a time earlier on in the case for many months where people were demanding and pushing, and to a small extent, there was a level of peer pressure in people were saying, Raf, what's your opinion? What's your conclusion? You're not giving yours. We need yours. Give me, give me, give me. Oh, wait, what's that? I'm not talking about myself. Well, that's a positive, right? I'm not doing all the talking. I'm not weighing in on just my thoughts, because guess what? I'm too tied up looking at it from other perspectives. Oh, well, that clearly highlights I'm showing balance, because I'm putting myself last, I'm putting other people first, and the perceptions and outcomes. If I put myself first, then I might already be eliminating other people's ideas, because it could be considered as selfish or biased, putting yourself first, your thoughts, your feelings in a situation when there's other people's thoughts and ideas at hand as well. There's an order to it, there's a process to it. And once again, with time, people fail to acknowledge that. So whilst I'm mentioning all the bad within this case and community, you yourself could be thinking of the opposites, which are what are the good? Or what are the counterpoints to the bad? Well, for wrong dates, it would be, yes, look at the date, double check it. Question, is it true? Is it the real date? Or is it a manipulated one? Or more so, is it something which was taken in the past but uploaded in the future? See, with the Kenny Veach case, perfect example. People see it as a certain day in October of Kenny Veach's hike going out there. People who don't bother doing research just assume that that hike footage is the hike which Kenny went missing on, never returned back in October. Newsflash, reality is Kenny Veach went out one final time on an undocumented hike, possibly with a camera, an alternative, which is odd, from what the girlfriend, ex, said at the time. And that was in November, like November the 10th, 2014, when Kenny set out hiking Las Vegas, Nevada, Little Jeremy Canyon, never returned back. Okay? People think that the YouTube video that was uploaded in October was the hike he went missing on. Incorrect. People didn't bother looking at the dates. People just jumped to conclusions. You see how there's misinformation and misunderstandings because of recklessness, laziness, and impetuism at times. But let me add on further. When people looked at the date of October, whether that be his final hike or his second to last hike, people interpreted it as, well, that must be the one which he set out on and all happened within the same day. Nope, doesn't mean to say that. Do we have hard evidence and proof to say he went out days earlier? No, but based off thinking realistically, to go out there for the day, to hike out there, to cover that distance, then to get back home knackered, exhausted, dehydrated, that can take days of recovery, physically, psychologically. To then edit the video, which he did, to then upload to YouTube, the processing behind it, the timing of how long it takes, especially with a camcorder, a video recorder compared to maybe a mobile device, the files, transferring it, the file format, it can be very tedious, it can take time. In perspective, when it came to a fellow hiker known as Jeff Clark in 2016, 2017, and 2022, and maybe a little bit in between, when he went out there, he did what he did, but he did not upload the video in the same day. 2 to 4 weeks later, when he had time and he recovered and in the right frame of mind, and when he could, that's when the video was uploaded. The same can apply to Kenny Veach. Just because you look at the date of the video of when it was uploaded, don't mean to say it was the same date as when it was recorded. Just like when Avery Combs has uploaded a TikTok video, a compilation one, it might be done and recorded within that year, the same year as Noah's death, and the location, certain aspects could be at the party house, but it doesn't mean to say it was recorded at the exact same time as the party, the day, etc. It might have been months before, weeks before, and then the video may have been uploaded the same month of Noah's death or near to the same day as the party. But that's just when it was uploaded, not when it was recorded. 2 separate dates. And you'll only see one side of it for most part of it, unless you might have the original video clips or access to the original device. So when people are working with material evidence, possible evidence, photos, videos in the case, could be relevant as for familiar faces, people of interest, could be relevant as for the location, could come across as relevant the date and time of the post. But is it the true original one? See, people can jump in at the deep end and say dates and times are manipulated and altered with. Other times, they're just naturally of a unnatural alternative time relevant to when it was uploaded, not when it was recorded, and that's just how technology works. And maybe you can find the original raw format clip here or there and find the true original date, but if you don't have access to it, you won't be able to know, and it's just up for the unknown and uncertainty. So people jump ahead, get ahead of themselves. They might find some footage or photos, they might get too excited and then push it out there. See, okay, there's a current trend and theme going on about in the past. Might not be a direct date or time, but it's not relevant to the party, but it's more a backstory to behind people's characters and personalities and perceptions. So at this moment in time, by other people, there is skepticism regarding Caden Pressey and Alicia Lee in a negative way. It puts them in a negative light, and there is supposedly video footage to back that up. But is it relevant to the party? No. Is it relevant to certain attitudes? Some may say yes. I'm not going to get too deep into that at this moment in time because I know it will cause a lot of trouble and backlash. Does that mean it needs to be silenced? No. But there might be a time and place to bring it up, if possible. See, there'll be other stuff in the past which are brought up and there wasn't too much damage or harm because it was just done at the right time and there was a true reason behind mentioning it. Just like at times where it might come across as Justin being attacked, but the time of when I did the video, what was within it and what I said, it was like damage limitation for the right reasons, but still spreading awareness of the situation for the right reasons, good or bad. So you just got to time it. So if it is forced in between, sometimes the more people force it, the less likely it will happen. I mean, there's got to be a time and place for that part 2 never released public interview with Caden and Alicia, in a way. Technically, it's already out there publicly. Damage is done. But sometimes you've got to respect people's wishes in the background as well. If there's a way of finding middle ground or negotiating without it getting too technical, without it needing too much communication, because when some are saying in the background, well, you're not going to understand it, you're going to get it mixed up, well, that just seems like there's a level of doubt with their mindset towards my ability. So if people are doubting me, what else are they doubting me about? What knock-on effect can that have? See, I'm already planning ahead as for what could go wrong. As for a heads up at this moment in time, no more of my videos have been falsely reported, and my Caden Pressey videos still remain up on my channel, so that's all positive. So even if things had been claimed to have been reported, or there's material to imply that someone is responsible, no action has followed up since. See, I'll give you an example right now. The dates, timing. 2024, around the 4th to the 8th of December, Justin Roy, within a Facebook group chat, which has been seen in a way from a screenshot perspective, where it shows Alicia Lee referring to Brooke Bounds-Carter that action needs to be taken against her in some way, advising other people in that group chat to take action, and also Alicia, in her own words, saying also reporting Raf's videos to YouTube will help. Why would reporting my videos to YouTube help? Oh, help in removing the videos, getting them taken down, so then it preserves the image of Alicia or Caden or somebody else out there. It doesn't look too good. It's somewhat concerning and worrying. But counterpoints have said that Alicia is appreciative of my coverage in the case. Well, if someone is appreciative in covering my coverage of the case, why would they also be urging other people to report my videos then? They themselves may not report my videos, but if they're urging other people to do so and rise up, what good does that do? Nevertheless, ever since, nothing bad has happened. I'm being careful, I'm controlling myself, because other people would lose control immediately. And upon seeing that screenshot like what I did, other people would definitely lose control, blurt it out, or just go over the top. But I kept it somewhat controlled, reached out to the odd person of interest elsewhere, and what they said, they found the chat, they found the message, and the date of it relevant was around December. And I think a screenshot was shown as well, around December time of 2024. My videos that were taken down were to do with Jack and Caleb. So there would be no reason for Alicia to want them to be removed, because it's not about her or Caden, it's about other people, so it should be left alone. And furthermore, big thing, my videos were falsely reported months before December. So if Alicia had said, oh yeah, reporting Raf's videos will help at this time onwards, well, that time onwards, nothing has happened to me. But what's happened before that, false reports, which seem like delayed ones pending for months, which is questionable by YouTube, but that's independent, separate. When people did report my videos falsely, it was before Alicia made the call to arms, which basically means there is no correlation. So whilst yes, there is a screenshot which may paint Alicia in a negative light, and other people as well, it doesn't directly prove my videos were taken down because of those people, because the timing does not add up whatsoever. Now you could argue and say, well, maybe what's been documented here and vocally expressed publicly is at a later point. The mind behind it may have been expressed internally months before that. Well, I'm not going to completely dismiss that. That's where we get even more deeper. That's my role to start thinking like that. But there's no cause for concern to do that right now. But I just wanted to give you an example of how something that is the correct date, no, not the correct date, how something like a screenshot could be interpreted as a certain date correlating to a bad event, but when looking at the backstory behind the true date of when the conversation took place, it's not directly relevant to the timing of a previous issue what I faced months before that. So even in my own situation, when the walls are pushing me up to my back or someone's pinning me against a wall, do I want to be pinned against a wall? Depends who it is. But no, if you're going to be cornered like a caged animal, and there is some very triggering evidence, and it's to do with you, it's more than understandable to become biased in the moment and to show a heat of a moment response, but I made sure not to do that. So it shows extreme control in some of the most important times and moments. An example, though, of where things had gone wrong, and we will acknowledge it, would be the time of when, out of respect for the individual in the background, but a person did pass on some screenshots of the supposed JJ Bumpaz and his TikTok account, which ended up being of a completely different person, supposedly. In my defense, they look the bloody same, if I be honest with you. But at that moment, it didn't go down too well. People were pissed off. It was rectified afterwards. But it's that misunderstanding, that mess up by other people and how they interpreted it, how they got passionate, how they got focused, and then passed it on to me like with a level of great confidence. Unfortunately, people let me down. Obviously, that mistake hasn't been repeated since, so that's something at least. But in terms of where it originally came from, the research was done by Kay Lee. Well, it just so happens that Kay Lee was a problematic individual in the Dylan Rounds case, a problematic person towards me, and had a bit of a toxic audience. So, kind of ticks the boxes here or there, a level of impetuism, because Kay Lee was the one to accuse Warlight Raff for copying their content, which there is no proof or evidence of, and also made a reference in the Dylan Rounds case, and I will never forget, along with the feral animal, also known as Bob, and some individual that liked strangling people in the past, something nuts, without mentioning the first name, because we don't want to summon wretched humans, all in the same room together with another person called, what was it, Buster or Buster Bitchimus, whichever one, don't really matter. Bitch are us. All come in every range and size, don't they? But they all group together at the end of the day. Exactly. Low standards, toxic behaviour, ridiculing me in the background, and Kaylee saying all Warlight Raff does is go on Facebook and look at messages and comments. Oh, you completely forgot about all the other hundreds of videos of map analysis, visual comparisons, analysis, footage, bits and bobs, outside of the box perspectives, and much more. Exactly the same mentality with humans in the Noah Presgrove case and community that have the cheek to say all Warlight Raff does is go on Facebook. clearly shows a tunnel vision, obtuse, one-dimensional, pathetic mindset, completely neglecting everything else that I have done? Or is it because they've not watched it? Well, that's their problem. They're a lost cause. Or is it because they have watched it, but they don't like the idea of admitting that Warlight Wrath is multi-dimensional and multifaceted? Can't even get the words out. Oh my goodness. Yeah? So, what does that mean? One-dimensional, tunnel vision, disastrous from the start. So when you next time round come across humans that show certain behavioural patterns, traits, personalities, limitations, just be wary, be cautious, because it can be a disaster from the start. You ask questions, but they jump over, override, or work around it with their own questions. It's bound for failure. There's no point continuing there. If you come across people that are pushy, prodding, and forceful, and also complain about being a victim, be cautious, skeptical about that as well, because it can end in failure as well. If you come across people that are part of the hype train, bandwagons, they're really exaggerative in what they say, Chinese whispers, or they underestimate things, self-manipulative, external manipulative minimalization, be careful, be cautious of those type of people. I'm seeing this all within this case and community with time, don't you worry about that. Making mental notes with time and how things can go wrong. Got to be cautious at times, don't want to pull the trigger. Other people are very trigger happy, right? So that's why things just go wrong. And to be honest, the obsession with murder in the first place, what's that theme about? Well, some people could genuinely be obsessed and actually want it to be a murder case just because it sounds more interesting and it's what keeps people glued to the seats and sticking around. The moment it could be ruled out as murder and it's just a simple accidental death, oh, we're bored of this, we're off now. This is what people don't acknowledge. The dark reality with true crime, the true crime community. Serial killers, obsessions with them, past, present, and future. Ooh, what's going on there? I don't know. But, you know, like when you got Ted Bundy, which supposedly I'm the reincarnation of Ted Bundy because I've been labelled as that's what I look like, supposedly. But there was actually a time I looked more like Ricardo Ramirez, the Night Stalker, which is perfect, obviously. Not. But it is what it is. But either way, from what I can remember when it came to true crime, more so psychology, lessons like that in the past college, yeah, people were around, but were they around truly, or was it for other reasons? Obsessions, fantasies about certain darkness, naughty behavior. Fantasies about certain killers, possible cases that could be down to killers and murder. The more gruesome it is, the more interesting, the more exciting. That's what drives people. That's what gets people going, raises all kinds of stuff within. So some people may have as others would call it, a twisted mind that a particular case, the way it's going, could be murder, but it might be going in a different direction with time. That some people may actually try and twist and force it back onto the murder spectrum just because that's the way they want to see it, or that's the way they want it to be, because it could be tied to their own little secret fantasy within, right? People don't acknowledge that aspect. It's a little bit more obscure, abstract, outside of the box, very maybe small minority. But at the end of the day, I know people have said, you know, is there enough evidence to say there is complete murder? Is there enough evidence for that? And you could say, maybe not. And then you could follow it up with, well, then why are people pushing it so damn hard then? Some could push it so hard because they just genuinely believe it to be the case. Could some label them as delusional? Yeah. But is there a reason to attack them for that? Well, if they're not causing harm themselves, there's no reason for them to be insulted, just like how it's vice versa. If you're causing harm, then maybe some insults or criticisms could be directed in a controlled way, to an extent, possibly. But there might be people along the way that actually want it to be murder just because it sounds better and it's more interesting and it's more exciting. Just like how when it comes to cases in general, what's the latest, hottest, trending case where all the big YouTube channels gather to and then cover it for a bit of time And then once it gets boring or something else comes about, a different case, and it's more gory or more scandalous, more dodgy, let's jump on a board to that instead. Trend hopping in a way. Other people hop from case to case just because that's in their channel DNA. They just don't stick around because that's not their style. They're just there to tell the story, start, middle, end, cliffhanger, and then move on. Tell a story, spread a bit of awareness, and move on. Fair enough. Everybody does it differently, and that's better, to be honest. If everybody did it this way, it'd be too saturated, and it might not work for me, especially when it's a popularity contest where there's bigger channels with bigger audiences. They would just take over and dominate, and then I'd be screwed. So, yeah, it's good that it branches off in different ways, but it's just still worth acknowledging. If it's not murder, could there be other people on the other side in an unnatural way where they might push it as for a different outcome when it's not? Those type of people who could do that, if it did ever happen, could be the ones responsible. Misdirection or protecting somebody else. People on the opposite side that are pushing a possible murder aren't doing it as a means of protecting someone, but more as a means of possibly getting justice in their mindset, what they may think or believe. Or if there is another bit of historical records of grudges with one another in the past, you could be thinking, it could be murder, it might not be, but because I hate someone who just so happens to be tied up in this case, I'm going to try and link them with the case and blame them for it and destroy their life as a means of petty revenge. Not about Noah, not about the case, but about background pettiness in the background. That could always happen as well. But I think what I'm trying to get at is from both directions, it can be damaging towards a case. It can slow things down, it can cause trust issues, and it can cause major confusion. Because, some people that may believe it's murder, but they're doing it in an unnatural way, could try and force in pieces of made up evidence, fake confessions, fake manipulated comments to paint someone in a negative light, whether that's happened yet or not. It could be done. And like getting footage of a fight scene, a violent moment, which may or may not involve people who are relevant to the party, but as for the date or time may not be relevant, but people are forcing that in as a means of grasping at straws in hopes that someone will cling onto it and then use it to push further into the case with a certain agenda. That at the end of the day, you might get genuine people that think it's murder and have certain ideas, and it could end up being a murder case, but then other people in the background that think it's murder as well, but are pushing even harder in an unrealistic way by adding fakeness to it, and fake evidence actually undermines and makes a mockery of the other people that are in line with the outcome, and it could actually have negative effects in the case anyway, or with the concept of murder. So some people that push harder kind of undo the work what other people have been trying to do in a more controlled way. Just like it might be vice versa as well. But that might be more on the spectrum of the minority there, okay? So I think I've mentioned most of it, or at least I've tried to. Once again, you've got exaggerations, you've got underestimating, things blown out of proportion, the hype train, wrong dates, wrong times, misinterpretations, Chinese whispers, obsession with the murder outcome, pushing it in an unnatural way which screws over the other people that genuinely believe it could be murder in a more controlled way. So the bad ones get insulted, knock-on effect to the good people, innocent people that get insulted as well, vice versa. Then everybody feels like they're being attacked, but no one's trying to better themselves or better one another. So it's an endless repetitive cycle. But as we've seen, at least on my channel, the people that watch my videos that come on over from elsewhere, the way they behave, for the most part of it, reasonable, and at times some good individuals show as well. Not answering questions, breakdown in communication, and the debate of Noah walking away. When you add all the details up, when people do counter stuff but believe in Caden, then it's kind of, it's just not functional because you're kind of going against that. It's just weird. Anyway, I think we should leave it there for now before it gets any deeper or heavier. And, all the badness that's happened or what's been acknowledged, maybe just do the opposite and then things work out a little bit better, maybe. There's other videos and topics to cover in this case, but I wanted to do another raw video like this just because of the timing, and it was just the right time to do it. That's pretty much it. So feel free to like, share the video if you want. If you want to catch up on recent coverage, symbol up there to follow the playlist. If you want to support the channel, the PayPal link is down below in the comments. My name's Warlike Ref. Thanks for watching, take care, goodbye, and good night for now.